I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Catman. I teach sociology here at Sierra College. I also chair the New Legacy Committee, which is the committee on campus that works to reverse historical trends of underrepresentation for African American, Latino, and Native American students here. As one of the many things this committee helps to do on campus, we have the Cesar Chavez Higher Education Speaker Series, which will be happening today. My next introduction is for my partner in crime here on campus, the co-chair of the New Legacy Committee. He's a counselor here, and he is the director of the Puente program, which is widely successful at this college for our Puentistas. So please welcome Dr. Reyes Ortega.
Okay, también quería decir thank you everyone for being here. I know we still have some guests coming in through the doorway. We have a special, I think, event as part of our opener here today for you. But let me see if I can start by just laying a little bit of a groundwork in terms of the context of what you will be hearing today. Now, as you could possibly know, those of us that have organized, and I have to thank our students quite a bit for helping organize this event. You wouldn't believe how many hours and weeks and months, and actually a couple of semesters at the very least, it took to put this together for you. And we're all excited to be here, but I have to tell you something on a very, very personal level. That I as well am happy to be here, having to finally got to the point where we can present this format to you, but I do so, I must say, with a broken heart. Now, when I say a broken heart, I am really welcoming you here for two reasons. Number one, on one side of my broken heart is because we are here today to celebrate Cesar Chavez and the Cesar Chavez Higher Education Speaker Series. And also we are here today in support of the social justice responsibilities that are still being carried forward by the Lourdes Huerta. Yet, on the other side of my heart, it aches as I am reminded of this year's speaker series, the topic being the women of Juarez, las mujeres de Juarez, how many more must die before it's too many? Much has been written about the intolerable pain, anguish, death, and loneliness that exists in way too many hearts in Mexico. Imagine not knowing the whereabouts of your daughter. Imagine not knowing the whereabouts of your sister as her name joins the growing ranks of las desaparecidas, or those who have disappeared. To help us understand the depth of that pain, a poem written by Amalia Ortiz will be recited by our very own Puente students. And it's with great pride that I now introduce you to Natalie Aguilar. And as she comes forward here, I would ask that we all please have a moment of silence as we pay homage in memory of las mujeres, or the women of Juarez. Natalie?
My name is Natalie Aguilar, and I'm a student in the Puente program. In memory and in respect for the woman of Juarez, I ask that we observe a moment of silence. Now I present some of my fellow Puentistas a poem The Woman of Juarez, written by Amalia Ortiz, presented by Tatiana Reyes, Leslie Ramirez, Adriana Chaviera, Carol Villa, Sobeida Mendez, Marisa Magallanes, Gabby Ramirez, Ceci Santana, and Sandra Mendez.
At the west tip of Texas, there is a line that divides us from them, and them on the other side. They all look like me. Yet on my side, we sit passively nearby, while the other side allows a slow genocide.
500 missing women. Some claim more, some less. Some dismissed as runaways against their parents' protests. Hundreds found dead, hundreds still missing. The exact count is a mystery. And those disappearing daily, they all look like me.
I am the dead ringer for an army of the dead. Mexico slaughtered sisters. All young, long dark hair, dark skin, petite. Some say pretty. My family in my absence. All young, all lost, were dead. And they all look like me. I'm foolishly hunt for one serial killer when bus and cab drivers, even cops, are under suspicion. And the ever-growing number reflects an entire society where young women are expendable. Young women like me.
Mothers recognized, raped, and mutilated remains. Daughters clothed with mismatched bones, DNA that doesn't match. This shirt was my sister's, but those aren't her slacks. This skirt was my mother's, but that's not her hat. Dumped like trash, burned to ash in the desert that keeps its secrets. One body found dumped in the middle of the street in a neighborhood not unlike mine, but on my side of the line where I am alive, and my father reclines in his easy military chair bliss of Fort Bliss.
Mom and Dad warned to be careful, but they aren't overly concerned. When my brothers and I would cross the border from El Paso to Juarez for late-night cheap college drink-a-thons, as long as we stayed on the touristy paths that may exploit but do protect Americans and our American dreams.
See, we are different, and even they don't seem to see. And even my parents don't seem to see. All those missing women, they all look like me. But I am told we are different. Less Mexican, less poor. American, thus worth more. Different.
But all I can see are all the eerie similarities. They all work like I do. So many last seen going to and coming from work at U.S. corporate-owned maquiladora factories, but I'm told that this isn't an American issue and that I'm lucky here on the safe side. Safe, yet still not out of earshot of the distant cries of families searching ditches and roadsides, bearing snapshot after snapshot of my brown eyes.
Have you seen this girl? She's my daughter. La has visto, es mi niña, mi bebé, mi esposa, my wife, my baby. Have you seen this face, esta cara? When you fit the profile of predators prey, you can't help but take the crimes personally.
I am a symbol of those who survived, mouth open in defiance of their silence, spared by a line drawn in the sand between their parents and mine. But if that line had fallen someplace closer to home, someplace safe between you and I, who would I be? What would my worth be then? And if silence, who would speak for me?
Muchas gracias. Thank you very, very much. It's quite difficult to follow that, to tell you the truth, but let me do so, though, by introducing a colleague, a friend, someone that will continue the conversation here about what we've heard so far regarding Las Mujeres de Juarez. Edgar Ruiz, the Executive Director of the Council of State Governments West here in California, office being in California, his career has actually expanded over 20 years in the public and nonprofit sectors that have provided him a strong organizational foundation and knowledge of local, regional, national, and international policy issues. You have the program in front of you. You see Edgar, I think. He should be here behind me, I believe, I thought. At this point, then, if I could please, and with a round of applause, introduce and welcome Mr. Edgar Ruiz.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the kind introduction, Dr. Ortega. I want to thank you for all your work and the work of all the organizers to putting this together. Also want to thank the New Legacy Committee, chaired by Jennifer Catman, as well as all the sponsors and supporters of the forum. They're all listed in your program. I also want to recognize two individuals here that are here on behalf of the College President's Office, Mandy Davis, Vice President of Student Services, and Dr. Deborah Sutphin, Vice President of Introduction. If both of you can quickly stand up. I also want to recognize Sergio Garcia, who is in the audience, and who spoke yesterday during the luncheon. As some of you know, Mr. Garcia fought his case all the way to the California Supreme Court and was admitted to the California bar last October when the legislature passed and the governor signed a bill allowing qualified applicants to be admitted to the state bar regardless of their immigration status. Mr. Garcia, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. I am truly honored to serve as your moderator this afternoon and to facilitate a very robust discussion by a very distinguished panel that I would like to introduce at this time. And I'll have each of them come by one. First up is former Texas Senator Elliot Shapley. Senator Shapley served in the Texas State Senate from 1997 to 2011, representing the 29th district, which covered El Paso, Texas. Mr. Senator Shapley is a recipient of numerous awards and also chaired the Border Legislative Conference, which is a mechanism of cooperation among the 10 U.S.-Mexico border states. Senator Shapley, thank you. Mr. Alfredo Corchado, author and Mexico Bureau Chief of the Dallas Morning News. He is considered one of the top authorities on Latin America and Mexico's ongoing drug violence and illegal immigration. He has conducted extensive coverage over the years of the string of unsolved killings of women in Ciudad Juarez, and he just released his latest book, Midnight in Mexico. Mr. Corchado. Next up is Carla Castañeda, mother of a missing daughter and a member of the Committee of Mothers and Relatives of Disappeared Daughters, a group of relatives of femicide victims and missing young women in Chihuahua. Please welcome Carla Castañeda. Next, Mr. Ricardo Santiago, the International Community Organizer for Yo Soy 132, I Am 132, a student movement that emerged and energized during the 2012 presidential elections in Mexico. Ricardo, please. Thank you. The goal this afternoon is to have a very open conversation about the issues and circumstances related to the women of Juarez, which is the phenomenon related to the hundreds of female homicides in Ciudad Juarez since 1993. The actual number of murders or missing women in Ciudad Juarez is often in dispute, but it's definitely well over 400 over the last 20 years. The panel will address questions for about an hour. Then we will ask you, any of you, to ask questions to the panelists at about 1:30 or so. It is our hope that you gain a better understanding of the situation that has gripped Ciudad Juarez and the entire Ciudad Juarez, El Paso region for over 20 years, and of the complexities and issues related to this topic. Now, just a little bit of geographic context. El Paso, Juarez sits in the middle of the U.S.-Mexico border. The U.S.-Mexico border is 2,000 miles long, and at the center are two large cities, Ciudad Juarez, and El Paso. Additionally, nearby is Las Cruces, which that is included is called the El Paso Juarez Las Cruces region, which is about roughly 2.7 million people. The binational region is the second largest metropolitan area or binational region in the United States border next to the U.S. To San Diego, Tijuana. Juarez is by far the largest city in the region with approximately 1.5 million people. El Paso is the next with roughly 650,000 people as of 2010. And to give a little more perspective on the region in particular, I'd like to ask Senator Shapley to talk a little bit of the two communities, the growth, and kind of the growth for the last 20 years. Senator?
You want me to stay here?
Yeah.
Thank you, Edgar, and thank you, Reyes, Jennifer, and this great college. Thank you for this opportunity to come and share in the Northern California area what I think is one of the more important issues in the world, and that is what is happening to women around the world, but most particularly what happened to them in Juarez. So I want to take you back to 1993, which was the seminal year when things changed. If you look at that map, you'll see El Paso, Texas. Think of it as one side of the Feather River, and then right on the other side was Juarez, roughly 800,000 on one side, 1.4 million on the other. When 1993 happened, it was a trade arrangement called NAFTA. And what it did is accelerate globalization in a community that changed things forever in Mexico. Because of agricultural prices, because of the rise of something called the maquila industry, there came to Juarez 389 different factories that made things, and with them, hundreds of thousands of young women that were coming from interior towns to work. And they became separated from nuclear families and a way of life that experienced forever, for generations. And that is when the femicides first began in Juarez, is in 1993. By 2008, things had dramatically changed. What had come also with globalization was the value of the plaza. That location, El Paso, Juarez, drew drug trade on a scale that was much different than anything before. Mexico and Mexicans took over from the Colombians what had been a world trade and localized it in areas along the border. And for various reasons that my colleague Alfredo Corcheda will talk about, El Paso and Juarez, particularly Juarez, became the cartel location of value. And from 2008 to even today, there was a war over that location. And the various causes of the murders that we saw from 1993 forward accelerated during that period of time, where you were seeing more murders in Juarez than any other city in the world. Juarez was a very unsafe place. I'd go to Juarez with colleagues of mine, would be with armored cars, and you'd look at neighborhoods, and there would be nothing there. There'd be 300-400 houses burned out with maybe some dogs running through and nothing in that part of Juarez, particularly over by the Juarez. And so we're here today to explore why this happened, what happened specifically in Juarez when you think of some of this testimony that's going to be so emotional it may make you hopefully react. But to me, the most important thing, Reyes, is what do we do about it? What do we here and now do about what happened in Juarez and what is happening in other parts of the world like Africa when it comes to the treatment of women? So I wanted to lay out that context, and hopefully we can have a robust discussion. Thank you for having me here.
Alfredo, you've been covering this issue since 1993, and your coverage when you used to work at the Wall Street Journal, and obviously continued that in the Dallas Morning News. Can you give us a sense of a little bit of the background of the surge and kind of just the historical perspective of that?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Sierra College and Edgar, especially Reyes. I think we got to know each other a lot over email. Diane, and it's a pleasure to be here with Senator Shapley, Carla, Ricardo. But this, I'm just sad that it took us Sacramento to get together with Joyce and, and Shapley here. I also want to just say real quick, it's an honor to be here at Cesar Chavez Week. And it's remind you that tomorrow the movie comes out, and there's a lot of lessons in that movie, and the whole Cesar Chavez movement that still resonate today. And we talk about the women of Juarez, that's just one of them, immigration reform, etc. I will try to tell you a couple of, just two stories about the women of Juarez as a way to try to put it in context, put it in perspective, and these are personal stories. I come from a small little town in Durango, a place called San Luis de Cordero, Durango, and left Durango at the age of 5, came to Ciudad Juarez for a year to wait for my father, who at the time worked in California, to get the paperwork ready so that we can come here legally. And I remember during that time, my mother would refer to Juarez as kind of the garbage of humanity, because people were coming from all over the country at the time for the Maquila program, and there was no real sense of community. There was no real sense of infrastructure, of education opportunities, etc. So there was a sense that Juarez was just kind of a pathway to a layover to another place, another country. And I bring that story because years later, it really kind of resonated a lot more. When I, as a reporter, first for the El Paso Herald-Post and then later for the Dallas Morning News, I had been covering U.S.-Mexico issues out of D.C. And in 2001, after the terrorist attacks, it was clear that there was no real relationship between Vicente Fox and George W. Bush, that they asked me to go back to Mexico, cover Mexico, but stop in Juarez and try to find out who was killing the women of Juarez. And at first I thought, this is an impossible task. I mean, but my editors, for some reason, had confidence that I could actually get to the bottom of that, which obviously was not the case. So I arrived in Ciudad Juarez in 2003, and I began to cover what had started in 95. And between 1995 and 2003, there were 470 women had been killed. First thing I did was I talked to Casa Amiga, which was owned, an operation by Esther Chavez, who at the time said the majority of these women, almost 3/4, were cases of domestic abuse. So I focused on the 100 other women who had been victims. And I think that issue is really what brought me to the bigger story in Mexico, which is really the case of impunity. I met an attorney by the name of Sergio Dante Almaraz, who was really the guy, they would call him el abogado del diablo, the devil's attorney, because he worked for the cartels in Juarez. And it was through Dante that I was able to understand what was happening, in not just in Ciudad Juarez, but throughout Mexico, which is the rise of the cartels, the rise of organized crime, and how these people were basically running their own communities through empowerment, through impunity. As of today, as of 2013, the total number of women killed was 1,309. But in total, in Ciudad Juarez, the total number of people killed is 14,867. The number to look at, whether it's Ciudad Juarez or whether it's nationwide, in the country where more than 120,000 people have been killed or disappeared in just 6-7 years, is the following number. Only 95% of those cases remain unsolved. That means in Mexico has yet to really learn how to punish its people who do bad things. And so when you look at the women of Juarez, you have to understand that it comes down to impunity. Now, in the midst of all the sad news in Ciudad Juarez, I think as reporters we also find probably the biggest hope in the women of Juarez, because it's really the women of Juarez who have, with the blood of their children, have been able to rise up and been able to keep reminding the government that even as they try to change the narrative of the country, there's still justice that has not been served. You cannot have peace in Mexico without justice. And it's interesting that as journalists, we've also adopted the same slogan, ni una más. We also say the same thing for journalists in Mexico, ni uno más. So they have become an inspiration and a model for us to continue to remind the government that, yes, you want to talk about economic reforms, you want to talk about education reforms, but there's still injustice, and until you have justice, you can't really move into the future.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask my colleague here, Alma, to help me in the translation here. Carla, ¿nos puedes dar un poco de tu experiencia, cómo fue que te involucraste en el movimiento y un poco de tu historia?
Claro que sí.
I asked her to talk a little bit about her story, her situation, how she got involved in this movement.
Buenas tardes a todos. Pues sí, mi nombre es Carla Castañeda.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carla Castañeda.
Yo soy de Ciudad Juárez. Mi niña desapareció el 24 de octubre del 2008.
I'm from Ciudad Juarez, and my daughter disappeared October 24th, 2008.
Ella,
She-
el 20 de octubre, acababa de cumplir 13 años.
October 20th, she had just turned 3.
4 días después, ella desaparece.
4 days later, she disappeared.
Ella bajó a comprar un material para la secundaria
She went to buy some material for her high school.
y ya no regresó.
She didn't come back.
Fue un viernes, al ver que mi niña no regresaba,
It was a Friday, and as I saw that she was not coming back,
pues me puse como loca y empecé a buscarla.
I felt crazy, and I started looking for her.
Ese mismo viernes voy a Fiscalía General
That same Friday,
a poner la denuncia como desaparición de mi niña
I went to denounce her as disappeared,
para que me ayudaran a buscarla
so they can help me find her,
y no quisieron.
but they didn't want to.
Me dijeron que tenía que esperar 72 horas
They said that I had to wait 72 hours
para poder poner la denuncia como desaparecida.
so that I can denounce or make a statement that she had disappeared.
Yo no me quise esperar esas horas,
I didn't want to wait that much long,
así que yo empecé a buscar a mi hija,
so I started looking for her,
llevando a los noticieros una fotografía de ella
taking pictures to the news
para que la empezaran a pasar por la televisión,
so that they can start covering her through the news, through the TV,
para que me ayudaran a buscarla.
so they can help me find her.
Eso fue el viernes.
That was Friday.
El sábado yo recibo una llamada de una señora.
On Saturday, I received a call from a lady.
Ella me habla y me dice que su nombre es Hilda.
She calls me, she tells me that her name is Hilda.
Ella trabaja para recursos humanos.
She works with human resources.
Ella me dice, yo le hablo por la niña que acabo de mirar en la televisión.
She tells me, I'm calling about the girl that I just saw on TV.
Pues yo le comenté, es mi hija y estoy desesperada.
I told her, that's my daughter and I'm desperate.
Ella me dice, yo la miré el viernes
She tells me, I saw her last Friday
con un señor de 45 a 50 años.
with a guy of 40 to 50 years old.
El señor la llevaba estrujando y ella iba llorando.
The guy was pulling her and she was crying.
La niña se le quedó mirando a ella
The girl looked at her,
y es cuando a la señora le llama la atención y también se le queda mirando a la niña.
and that's what caught the lady's attention and also looked straight at the girl.
Ella puede ver que mi hija va llorando.
She saw that my daughter was crying.
Yo me alteré con la señora
I got desperate towards the lady,
y le pregunté que por qué no había hecho ella algo,
and I asked her, why didn't you do anything?
porque no le había preguntado si estaba bien.
Why didn't you ask her if she was okay?
Ella dice que no le comentó nada porque pensó que iba con su papá.
She said that she didn't say anything because she thought she was with her father.
Yo inmediatamente le marco a Fiscalía
I immediately called the police.
y llega a mi casa el ministerial Rodríguez y Alondra.
Rodriguez y Alondra, which is the police officer, gets to her home.
La señora me deja su número de teléfono.
The lady gives me her phone number.
Yo se los entrego a ellos. Ellos le hablan a la señora desde mi casa.
I gave them that phone number, and they call her from my house.
Pero yo fui testiga de cómo las usaron a la señora.
But I was the witness of how they used the girl, the lady.
Ellos le dijeron a la señora que ella se estaba metiendo en problemas muy graves.
They told the lady that she was getting in deep trouble.
Ya después la señora ya no me quiso ni contestar el teléfono.
After that, the lady didn't want to answer any of my phone calls.
Yo traté de comunicarme con ella para que me hiciera un retrato hablado de la persona que llevaba a mi niña.
I tried calling her to see if I could get some identification, if she can describe the person that was with my daughter.
Y ella ya no lo quiso hacer por miedo.
but she didn't want to do it because she was scared.
Yo no paré, yo seguí con la búsqueda de mi hija.
I didn't stop. I kept looking my daughter.
En fiscalía me hicieron la denuncia después de 2 meses de desaparecida mi niña.
Until 2 months after they actually made the report that my daughter had disappeared.
Ellos se molestaron tanto porque pues ellos pensaron que yo no iba a buscar a mi hija.
They were very mad because they didn't think I was going to keep looking for my daughter.
Hay tantas madres que se desaparecen sus niñas y no lo denuncian.
There's so many mothers that their daughters disappear and they don't make a report.
Yo no lo pensé 2 veces, pues es mi hija.
I didn't think about it 2 times. She's my daughter.
Con el tiempo fui mirando muchas cosas. Yo no sabía de la revisión de expedientes.
With time, I kept looking at other things. I didn't know about looking back to the files,
Ni tampoco sabía de los cuerpos que tienen en el CEMEFO.
or I didn't know either about the bodies that they have.
Tampoco sabía que tenía que exigirles a ellos que me hicieran la prueba genética para que la compararan con algún cuerpo que tuvieran ya.
I also didn't know that I had to ask them to make the DNA to see if they can compare with any of the bodies that were present there.
Yo no sabía eso pues porque a mí nunca me pasó por la mente que yo iba a ser una de las madres.
I didn't do that because I never knew I was going to be one of those mothers.
No sabía cómo pedir las cosas o cómo exigirlas.
I didn't know how to ask for the things that I needed to ask.
Fui aprendiendo y exigí que me hicieran la prueba genética,
I kept learning about the process and I demanded that they do the DNA test.
pero ellos me decían que era muy costosa,
But
que tenía que esperar a que llegaran más madres para podérmela hacer.
But they said that that was too costly, that they had to wait for more mothers to do it.
Y a mí se me hacía imposible, decía, o sea, tengo que esperar a que desaparezcan más niñas para que vengan las mamás y también les hagan las pruebas genéticas a ellas.
I thought it was impossible to wait for more daughters to disappear and mothers to come and do the report so they can finally do a DNA test.
El comandante de fiscalía me decía que así era.
The captain of the police department said that that's the way it was supposed to be.
Yo no me quedé callada, yo les hice un escándalo,
I didn't stay quiet.
lo hice público.
I made a public
Ahí fue
demonstration.
donde yo me los empecé a echar a ellos de enemigos.
That's when they started becoming my enemy.
Después de 2 años, 3 meses, me hicieron las pruebas genéticas.
After 2 years and 3 months, they did a DNA test.
Gracias a Dios que mi niña no estaba, bueno, no está ahí.
Thank God she was not one of those bodies that they had there.
Pero ya no me dejaba, yo ya iba a exigirles mis derechos.
But I wasn't letting them take advantage. I was demanding my rights.
Y cada vez que ellos me miraban que yo llegaba a fiscalía, me hacían malas caras.
And every time they'd see me go to the police department, they made bad, ugly faces to me.
El comandante Ricardo,
The Captain Ricardo,
él me dijo, ¿hasta cuándo vas a entender?
he told me, until when are you going to understand?
Y yo le dije a él, a mí me vale un comino lo que ustedes piensen
And I said, I don't care what you guys think.
y yo les voy a dar carrilla hasta que encuentren a mi hija.
And I will be here until you guys find my daughter.
De ahí empecé a conocer mis derechos,
From there, I started learning my rights,
derechos que a ellos les vale un comino porque no los respetan.
rights that they don't care about because they don't respect them.
Empecé a hacer caminatas y plantones
I started doing demonstrations and I started walking throughout the communities,
para obligarlos a exigirles que queríamos ya respuestas.
demanding that we wanted answers.
Las varias mamás que también tienen a sus hijas desaparecidas se empezaron a reunir conmigo
Other mothers that also had lost their daughters were joining me,
y a ellos les molestó tanto,
and they didn't like that.
ya que empezamos 2 madres
Since it started with 2 mothers,
y un padre
1 father,
y reunimos casi a 50 madres.
and we joined with another 50 mothers.
Ellos empezaron a agarrar más coraje, pero a mí me valía.
They started getting really mad, but I didn't care.
Yo lo que quería y lo que quiero es encontrar a mi hija.
What I wanted and what I want is to find my daughter.
Hasta ahorita tengo 2 años y medio que no reviso el expediente de mi hija,
Until now, it's been 2 years and a half since I hadn't looked back to my daughter's file
porque ellos siempre me lo han negado.
because they've denied it.
Ellos me perdieron las pocas fotografías que yo tenía de mi hija.
They lost the few pictures I had of my daughter.
Cuando yo se las pedí me dijeron que se les había traspapelado, que
When I
las
asked for
perdieron.
them, they said they couldn't find them.
Yo batallé para sacar una foto de mi hija para empezar a hacer pesquisas para poderla buscar.
Took me a while to get more pictures of my daughter to keep looking for her.
Pero no me detuvieron, seguí buscando a mi hija.
But I didn't stop. I kept looking for my daughter.
Lo último que alcancé a hacer en Ciudad Juárez fue una caminata de Ciudad Juárez a Chihuahua, caminando.
The very last thing I did in Ciudad Juarez was I walked from Chihuahua to Ciudad Juarez.
Ahí fue donde empezaron las amenazas,
That's when I started getting threats.
ya que enfrenté al gobernador de Chihuahua.
Since I confronted the governor of Chihuahua,
Él hizo todo lo posible por detener la caminata porque le perjudicaba a él.
he did everything he could to stop the march because it was not good for him.
Y no lo permitimos.
But we didn't let that happen.
Al llegar a Chihuahua, hicimos 8 días caminando de día y de noche.
We got to Chihuahua after walking 8 days and 8 nights.
Al llegar a Chihuahua, el Señor no nos quiso atender, se encontraba de vacaciones.
Once there, he didn't want to see us. He was in vacations.
Regresamos a Juárez.
We came back to Juarez.
Transcurso el camino, me marca el secretario de Gobernación,
The secretary of the government called me,
pidiéndome que por favor nos regresáramos a Juárez, que el día siguiente nos iba a atender el gobernador de Chihuahua.
asking us to come back to Juarez, that the governor was going to see us the following day.
No aceptamos, ya que estábamos muy cansadas.
We didn't accept because we were very tired.
Y yo le decía que estábamos para que nos esperaran, no para esperar.
And we said that we are here for them to wait for us, not for us to wait for them.
Ya que el Señor iba a Juárez, pero nunca tenía tiempo para vernos o para hablar y decirnos qué es lo que estaban haciendo con los expedientes de nuestras hijas.
Since he would always go to Juarez, but he never had time to talk to us or to tell us what was happening with our daughter's files.
Él se molestó tanto porque no quisimos regresar.
He was so mad because we didn't want to go back.
Él me habla y me pide una audiencia privada.
He called me and wanted to meet with me in private.
Y yo le dije que no.
I said no.
Estábamos todas las madres reunidas.
It was all of the mothers there that we were together.
Las madres me preguntaban, me decían, Carla, ¿por qué no? Si es lo que estamos pidiendo.
And the mothers asked me, why not, Carla? That's what we're asking for.
Y yo le decía, sí, queremos una audiencia, pero no privada, la queremos pública.
And I said, yes, we want to meet with him, but not in private. We want this to be public.
Las mamás voltean y me miran y me dicen, no te entiendo o no te entendemos.
The mothers look at me and they say, we don't understand. What do you mean?
Y yo les dije, ya estamos cansadas, no entienden que él quiere una audiencia privada
And I said, we're tired, don't you understand? He wants a private audience.
porque él no quería testigos de lo que iba a decir o lo que iba a prometer.
Because he doesn't want witnesses of what he's going to say or what he's going to promise.
Y yo les comenté, si la hacemos pública, van a estar los medios de comunicación, va a haber gente
If we make it public,
y vamos a tener testigos.
there's going to be witnesses and there's going to be media coverage.
Me apoyaron, dijeron que estaba bien.
They supported me.
El Señor nos dio la cita, dijo tal día y tal día fue. Cuando subimos ahí, el Señor trató como de asustarme.
We received that meeting, that date and the time, and once we met with him, he tried to instill fear in us.
Y aunque sí sentía miedo por cómo me miraba y las señas que le hacía a sus guardaespaldas,
And although I was scared because of the way he looked at me
no lo demostré.
and the signals he gave to his bodyguards, I didn't show that fear.
Y seguí cuestionándolo delante de la gente
And I kept questioning him in front of the people
y exigiéndoles nuestros derechos.
and demanding our rights.
Y él se molestó tanto porque la gente empezó a apoyarnos.
He was very mad because the people started supporting us.
Hubo un momento en que todo se salió de control y la gente se le quiso ir encima.
There was a moment when everything got out of control and the people wanted to go against him.
Y ahí entró el Señor, uno de sus trabajadores,
One of his coworkers or workers came in.
que a él se le conoce como Teto, el señor Teto,
He's also known as Teto.
y él empezó a levantar la voz diciéndonos malas palabras a las madres.
He started cussing at the mothers.
Pero pues eso nos valió. Lo
But
que
we
queríamos era que la gente se diera cuenta cómo eran ellos realmente.
But we didn't care about that. We wanted the people to know how they really were.
No acabó bien la reunión porque el Señor quedó mal.
The meeting did not end well,
Y de allí fue donde empezaron las amenazas hacia mí.
and that's when the threats began against me.
Me marca de nuevo el secretario de Gobernación
The Secretary of Government calls me back again,
pidiéndome que fuera a Chihuahua,
asking me to go back to Chihuahua
que porque el gobernador César Duarte quería hablar conmigo a solas.
because the governor Cesar Duarte wanted to talk to me alone.
Y yo le dije que no.
And I said no.
Le dije, pues si ya tuvimos una audiencia privada, ¿para qué me quiere ver?
We already had a private meeting. Why does he want to see me again?
Él me dice, como tú eres la cabecilla de todo el grupo,
He said, because you are heading the whole group,
y eres la que alborota el gallinero.
and you're pretty much the one who's leading the demonstrations.
Tú eres la que puede controlar todo esto.
You're the one who can control this.
Por eso te quiere él ver a ti.
That's why he wants to see you.
Y él te va a poder ayudar a ti en tu caso.
And he's going to be able to help you and with your case.
Él me dice, mañana temprano, a las 6 de la mañana pasa una camioneta a recogerte.
He said, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning at 6 in the morning.
Ellos estaban seguros de que yo iba a ir.
They were very sure I was going to go.
Claro que yo no fui, pues porque dije, ¿cómo que nada más a mí? Nada más quieren que vaya yo a solas.
Of course I didn't go. Why just me? They wanted me to go alone.
Me negué
I denied that.
y él me dice, atente a las consecuencias.
And he said, just be careful with the consequences.
Y yo todavía lo volví a retar, le dije, pues me atengo a las consecuencias.
And I told him, well, I'll be careful.
Ese mismo día empezaron policías a rodear mi casa.
That same day, we had police running our house.
En la madrugada estaban afuera de mi casa queriéndose meter.
Very late at night, they were in front of my house trying to go in.
Si yo salía, ya me estaban vigilando a qué hora salía, a qué horas entraba.
They were taking note of what time I was leaving my house and what time I was coming back.
Vigilaban a mis hijos.
They kept an eye on my kids.
Un martes a las 6 de la mañana,
Tuesday at 6 in the morning,
que fue de enero el año pasado,
January of last year,
yo recibí una llamada anónima
I received an anonymous call
de una persona que me estaba previniendo.
from a person that was giving me information to be careful.
Supe quién me hizo la llamada.
I knew who made the call.
Esa persona ya me había prevenido de otras cosas que salieron verdad.
That person had previously advised me of other things that had happened.
Esa persona me habla y me dice, Carla, salte porque van por ti.
That person called me and said, Carla, leave the house because they're going to go for you.
Y yo todavía le decía, ¿qué? ¿Qué pasa?
And I said, what? What do you mean? What's going on?
Y él me decía, salte, salte. Y me colgó. En cuanto él me cuelga, pues yo no la pensé. Yo tomé a mis hijos y salí corriendo para con una vecina.
He told me to leave the house and hung up. As soon as he did that, I took my kids. I didn't think about it twice, and I went to my neighbor's house.
Al llegar con mi vecina, ella me dice, ¿qué tienes? A los niños los metí en su recámara y ella y yo nos quedamos en la cocina.
When I got to my neighbor's house, I took the kids to her bedroom, and I spoke to her at the kitchen.
Yo le digo, me vienen a levantar.
I told her they're coming to get me.
Un levantamiento en Juárez es que te desaparecen.
When they try to come and get you in Juarez, that means they're gonna disappear you.
Cuando yo le estaba diciendo eso, miro cómo encapuchados empiezan a rodear mi casa.
As I was telling her that, I saw how people with covered faces were in my house.
Pues yo me asusté demasiado, dije, pues estos desgraciados, ¿qué quieren?
I was very scared. I didn't know what these people wanted.
Yo le hablo a mis familiares
I called
y
my family,
les digo dónde estoy, le digo, está pasando esto, va mi hermano.
and I told them where I was. I told them what was going on, and my brother came.
Mi hermano se para en la casa y se acerca a un policía.
My brother went to the house and approached one of the policemen.
El policía le dice, ¿es tu hermana?
The police asked him if I was his sister,
Él le dice, sí, es mi hermana y mis sobrinos y necesito verlos.
and he said, yes, that's my daughter and my nephews, and I need to see them.
A él le dicen, llévatela porque tenemos orden de levantarla.
And he said, take her away because we have an order that we have to take
El
her.
policía le dijo serio, muy despacio.
The policeman told him,
Mi
very serious.
hermano se asustó demasiado y es cuando me empieza a hablar, me dice, ¿dónde estás?
My brother got really scared and he called me asking me where I was.
Yo hablo con la licenciada y le digo lo que está pasando.
I spoke to the attorney and I told her what was going on.
Ella me dice, no te muevas, voy por ti.
She said, don't go anywhere. I'm going to pick you up.
Llegó un carro,
The car got there.
el carro se mete a la casa de mi vecina
The car went to my neighbor's house.
y ahí me sacaron a mí y a mis 4 hijos.
That's when they took me and my 4 kids.
Me estuve escondiendo un día,
I hid for a day,
pero los policías no se iban de mi casa.
but the police didn't leave my house.
Ahí es donde se toma la decisión de que yo me tengo que venir a pedir asilo político acá.
That's when the decision was made that I had to ask for political asylum here,
Y yo no quería.
and I didn't want to.
Yo decía, ¿cómo? Pues ahora que yo soy la delincuente, ahora me están buscando a mí.
I said, why? Why am I now the criminal? Why are they looking for me?
Cuando yo no le he hecho daño a nadie.
When I didn't do anything to anybody.
Yo simplemente estoy pidiendo lo que por ley me corresponde, lo que es mío.
I'm only asking for my rights.
Empezaron a molestar a mi familia.
They started bothering my family.
Ellos querían sacarme a mí de con mi familia.
They wanted to take me out as well as my family.
Al mirar todo eso, pues me tuve que venir a pedir asilo político. Entré por Los Ángeles.
Seeing all that, I did ask for political asylum and came in through LA.
Llevo un año aquí
It's been a year since I've been here,
y realmente a mí no me gusta estar aquí.
and I really don't like being here.
Yo aquí no tengo familia.
I don't have family here.
Cuando yo estaba encerrada en migración,
When I was in a detention center,
es una prisión,
it's a prison.
me sentía protegida.
I felt protected.
Dormíamos en el suelo, mis hijos y yo,
We slept on the floor, my children and I,
pero yo no quería salir de él porque me sentía segura.
but I didn't want to leave that detention center because I felt safe.
Y nada más yo decía, me van a sacar de aquí, ¿y a dónde voy a ir?
The only thing that went through my mind was, if they get me out of here, where am I going to go?
Si yo no conocía a nadie,
If I don't know
yo
anybody.
decía, y si me va más mal, traigo a mis hijos, traigo a mis niñas.
What if it gets worse? I have my kids, my children.
Se me empezaba a cerrar el mundo.
I couldn't see what was coming for me.
Estuve a punto de decir a migración, ¿sabe que no me deje aquí, regréseme para Tijuana?
I was about to tell immigration, please don't leave me here, take me back to TJ.
Pero a la vez mis niños me decían, no mami, si nos vemos te van a matar.
But my kids would tell me, no mom, because if we go back, they're going to kill you.
Y yo les decía, ¿y dónde vamos a ir?
And I asked them, where are we going to go?
Hubo una persona que supuestamente me iba a apoyar.
There was a person that was supposed to be going to support me.
Mentiras.
Lies.
Nada más me sacó la información que quería
He just took the information he needed from me
y me votó a mí y a mis hijos.
and just said bye to me and my kids.
Gracias a Dios que conocí gente buena.
Thank God I met good people
Yo les agradezco muchísimo.
that I really appreciate.
Ellos sí, sin conocerme, me empezaron a apoyar.
They, without knowing me, started helping me.
Ahí fue donde empecé a mirar las cosas diferentes.
That's when I started seeing things differently.
Pero aunque contaba con el apoyo de ellos, pues yo seguía rodando con mis hijos.
But even though they supported me, I was just going places with my kids.
Gracias a Dios que pudimos rentar un departamento.
Thank God we were able to rent an apartment.
Ahora estoy con mis hijos, ellos estudian.
Now my kids are going to school.
Yo no puedo trabajar porque no tengo un permiso de trabajo.
I can't work because I don't have a work permit.
Y aunque de repente batallo para la renta, para los biles,
And although there are times when I can't pay the rent or some of the bills,
miro a mis hijos y me siento feliz.
I look at my kids and I feel happy.
Pero
But
siento los remordimientos
I feel remorse
de mi niña,
of my young girl
que llevo un año aquí
that I've been here for a year
y no he hecho nada por buscarla.
and I have not done anything to look for her.
Y no es porque yo lo quiera así, sino porque no sé cómo hacerlo aquí.
And it's not because that's how I want things to happen. It's just that I don't know how to do it from here.
Ya tengo mucho tiempo sin revisar el expediente de mi hija. Desde que yo me vine, el caso de mi hija como que se cerró.
It's been a while since I haven't looked back to my daughter's file.
Nadie hace nada.
Since I came here, it says the file closed. Nobody's doing anything.
Mis papás ya están grandes.
My parents are old,
Y yo les pedí que ellos no fueran a fiscalía porque me da miedo que la agarren con ellos.
and I asked them not to go to the police department because I don't want them to be in danger.
Ya no llega mi corte.
The court date is almost here.
Ahí es donde dicen si me quedo o me voy.
They will tell me, that's where they'll tell me if I stay or if I leave.
Y yo no tengo ningún pendiente.
And there's nothing that worries me.
Si me quedo, qué bueno.
If I stay here,
Y
that's
si me
good.
voy también.
And if I leave,
Yo no voy a parar de buscar a mi hija.
that's good as well. I won't stop looking for my daughter.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Reyes, with your permission, I'd like to invoke the moderator's privilege here. I know it's 1:30 here, but there are a couple of questions I think that we would like to have, and I certainly want to hear from Ricardo as well, and then kind of jump into some general questions, and hopefully we can get to a few questions from all of you. Ricardo, Yo Soy 132, can you briefly tell us how your group, this group, got involved in this issue, and what you hope to achieve?
Thank you very much, everyone, brothers, sisters, fathers. 132 is a movement that started in Mexico a year ago against the dictatorship of a party. Over 70 years, 70. Some of us grown up, and we will die under that dictatorship, the ruling party, the PRI. In last year, the students for one of the most expensive colleges in Mexico complained against how the media put out the president in Mexico. Not electoral fraud, that is only the tool. The one who is behind that power is the media. So Yo Soy 132 demand that information is free. We believe that people who have the information correct will be the right choice. We get involved in the issue of Juarez because we're facing the same enemy. People think that the enemy is a person, the gobernador of Chihuahua, or Peña Nieto, or Calderón with 100,000 people killed. Yes, 100,000 people. More than the USA military troops lost in Afghanistan and Iraq in 10 years' war. People have been killed. Towns have disappeared. The senator in Texas, he will realize that now the next elections we're going to have a lot of people, middle-class people who's moving to Texas because Mexico is unsafe. We have over 2,500 people, females, killed. Our enemy is impunity, corruption. That is the name of a system that converts any one of us in a merchandise. Merchandise that make less than $5 per day. When USA salary is $10 per hour, we make $5 per day. That makes us a merchandise. Females are ready to be used and disposal. When the police arrest somebody because they killed their girlfriend, he gets some money and let it go. Nobody's persecuted. The criminals, they get a job. Calderón get a job in a university in USA. Peña Nieto paid $100,000 to be put out in a front magazine of Time, a USA magazine. So 132, in our own means, we use the media, Facebook, Twitter, anything that we can do to denounce what is happening in Mexico. We go from Juarez to immigration. We go from helping the dreamers in Tijuana to pass 120 families. We are a little group. We are no big group. We won't lie to you about saying that we are the main group. No, we are a little drop of water in the big ocean of that Mexican people are fighting. And the question is, why you should care about us? Why you should care about what is happening in Juarez or Michoacán or Guerrero? And the answer is very simple, because we are here. Because somewhere, somehow, you or your father one day crossed the border. And now, that relationship between your town and Redwood City is providing the money to fight against the government. The self-defense groups in Michoacán get money, and people who were born in Redwood City. So that chain is start to move very fast. The same way that we help one of our sisters who have to go through the pain of losing somebody as her daughter, we're also helping out some of our friends who are in jail. Just kids like you who demand education. So in Mexico, the system put you in jail. We have 8 friends who are in jail, so our job is to denounce the situation. We go to anywhere that you invite us to go, to explain and tell you about these stories, because as I say at the beginning, in Mexico, our enemy is impunity. And the impunity have a name. The same way that the crosses in front of you have a name of Cynthia or Jasmine, that is the girls who have disappeared. And people ask us, we know their name, they have the parents, they have a face, they have a picture. But we never look behind the big picture that is who was the one who profit for that murder. And that is the power of a government. USA have a bigger trade partner, but the bigger trade partner across the border is not an honest person. It's somebody who have win the power through murder and disappearing human beings, not numbers. People like you and me who have the bad luck to be poor. Because if you look at the pictures, all of them, the girls who were disappeared are young, poor girls. And the same, now the hometown of the Presidente Peña Nieto displays Juarez to be the main city of mujeres desaparecidas. So that disease is spreading all over the country. It's not Juarez, it's a country. We have the situation with immigrants when the narco killed 72 immigrants, Central American immigrants in Tamaulipas. A bus full of immigrants coming to find a job in USA, they were murdered. They don't even take them out of the bus, they killed them all. Somebody saw them, somebody sell them food, somebody give them water, but nobody is responsible. Well, 132, as I said at the beginning, we want that information to be free. We want that you know a little bit about us. As you say, in these last 3 months, almost 4 months, in Ciudad Juarez have disappeared 14 girls. 14 girls. I think so if any one of you guys, if you walk into this place and you see the front row empty, you will ask you, how come that chairs are empty? Because 40 girls have been disappeared. If you look in your left side, you will say, why 3 rows of chairs are empty? That are the chairs that are empty because the government don't do their job. They are working hand to hand with the narcos. And our job of 132 is to get that information out. So we ask you and we thank you for being here today. And we are very glad to be in a college because our movement started in a college. And we understand that one thing is learning and one other thing is having education. Education, it will get you a job. Learning will get you a life. So we really hope that today we walk out of this room that we learn something to appreciate the people next to you and stand up for what is right, the truth.
Thank you. This issue has gathered the attention internationally. Groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the Inter-American Court has been involved. And I look to our table to the right here, Porto Alfredo and Senator Shapley. What has been your involvement, or maybe you can talk a little bit of the U.S. involvement in this matter and provide your perspective on this and how your office got involved.
Well, as I listen to this story and how tragic and terrible it is, it was 5 years before that murder that 20 women were in my office in El Paso from Juarez, mothers whose daughters had been killed. And they came not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times. And I said, what can I do? I'm a senator from Texas. I'm on the other side of the river. And they said, if not you, who? That's a tough question to ask in the world today. If not you, then who? And we got on the phone and called the FBI and got forensic work going through the State Department and some other things. Then they came back and they said, we want you to march into Juarez with 800 people. And you know what? We did it. How can you say no when you're hearing stories like that? And we walked into the area of the cathedral and there were 200 police cars there. There were probably by that time 10,000 people had gathered to hear the speakers. It was the beginning of the rising up, I'd say, of the other side, the other voice. That was in 2003 or 4. That was 14,000 murders ago. Things did not get better. Things got worse. Mexico right now passed one of the biggest reforms in Mexico's history on energy. They want to remain energy independent. And this country and Mexico are going to get into negotiations with respect to what's going to happen in the next round of trade talks. You know it, Reyes. You know it, Edgar. Alfredo will probably be covering it. In that first round of trade talks, there were chapters written into the bills on the environment. They knew that the maquilas would take benzene and put it in barrels and leave it in Mexico instead of bringing it back and disposing of it properly. There were chapters on labor. They knew exactly what was going to happen in labor differentials. There were chapters on agriculture. They, in fact, knew that the price of corn would drop so low that it would cause a mass migration north into this country. If we do not start the conversation now about talking about the rule of law in a country that is our neighbor, our sisters and brothers, and our families, there are thousands of El Pasoans who started out in Juarez or Chihuahua, this story right here, who now live in LA. And if we're not going to start the story with those people who are our brothers and sisters and about the lives of what's happening with this new trade pact, then when are we? And I think the conversation needs to start now. Let's put in indicia of the rule of law into our next trade pact. I don't know if you caught the stats that Alfredo was giving you. 120,000 people dead. We were in the ambassador's office in Mexico City, and the Attorney General of Mexico was giving us glowing statistics on the number of people who under judicial reforms had been arrested, and they were proud they were going to bring them to trial, and there's actually going to be an evidentiary hearing, and there was going to be a defense and the birth of a real system of justice, right? So what's the follow-up question? How many got convicted? What was the answer, Edgar?
Less than 5%.
Less than 5%. And at that point in time, the real number was, it just started, 951 had been arrested, not one had been brought to trial. So the number that he's mentioning, which is, watch the numbers, 120,000 people dead. How many people have been brought to justice in a country and in a system of justice? It is an obligation we have now to introduce that conversation into the next trade pact. There is a desperate need for capital in Mexico, particularly on energy. There is going to be a negotiation soon. It's going to start with this administration. We, all of us, need to make that part of that conversation.
Alfredo?
I mean, I would just echo what the senator said. It's really a, and again, that's why I'm so thankful that Sierra College would do this, because it's really about having the conversation on this side. Not just Mexican Americans, but Americans in general have to care about what happens in Mexico. I mean, I can't think of any other country that has more of a daily impact on this country than Mexico. And it's always interesting for me as someone who lives in Mexico City, someone who reports for an American audience, to see how little people know. There's a thing called the Merida Initiative that's supposed to try to help Mexico create a rule of law or build a rule of law. And it's, when it's all said and done, it really comes down to what Senator Chavez was saying, rule of law. I was just in Nuevo León last week in a place called Colombia, because the Mexicans are really excited about energy reform. And obviously Texans are very excited about that too. You know, the idea of investing in Mexico and making perhaps billions of dollars. But as I'm traveling with these Marines on the Mexican side, there's a lot of concern about the 120,000 people that I mentioned. These are the people who we know have been killed or disappear. The story that we have failed to tell as reporters are the number of clandestine graves that are probably spread throughout the U.S.-Mexico border. And this one energy guy was saying, we're concerned that when we start digging for energy or for oil, we're going to find a lot of these bodies. Just Monday, I was in Juarez with the U.S. officials who were talking about there may be hundreds of bodies along the Texas border alone. And so you have to try to continue to educate the audience on this side of the border, but in the hopes that it's not just people who read, but that people who actually will do something. Because I tell you, I've been covering Mexico for almost 20 years now, and something has happened in the last year. There's almost a sense of, let's try to get away from the bad news of Mexico. Let's try to focus on the good stuff in Mexico. So it's really up to people on this side to try to continue putting the pressure on the Mexican government to say, okay, yes, we understand that you do have an aerospace industry in Chihuahua, in Querétaro. There are many interesting things happening in the auto industry, energy reform, et cetera. But you can't move on until you deal with the security issue, until you get that 5% that Senator Chapman was talking about, and really try to convict people. Otherwise, you're going to continue having this migration of people who leave Mexico for the United States, and you're going to continue the very same thing that's happening now. I mean, when you talk about drug traffickers, it's not just about pushing drugs, pushing cocaine, pushing marijuana into the United States. It's about controlling just about every aspect of Mexican life, extortions, kidnappings. In fact, less than 50% of the proceeds come from drugs. More than 50% come from other things in Mexico. So, I mean, there are still some very serious issues, but until Americans really get engaged and really try to continue to pressure Mexican authorities, whether through the Mérida Initiative or through other means, you're not going to see much change.
Thank you. And I'd like to get one more question in before I open it up to question here. I know we're running out of time, but both Senator Shapley and Alfredo talked about the transformation that is happening in Mexico in many ways. We who work along the U.S.-Mexico border see that trade relationship and the improvements and the enhancements and the enriching of lives. So, you know, one of the questions that I'd like to pose to the panel is the future. How do you view the future moving forward? I thought Alfredo in his book had a very interesting line as he was searching for the flickering light in the darkest of night and believing in the promise of a new day. That really struck me as something that I think all of our panelists here, I believe, are optimists despite the happenings of the region. But maybe in a few words to close, maybe if you can say, what is your hope? What do you see the future? And do you see a bright future ahead for the children, for the women of Juarez, and everybody in the community? Ricardo.
Yes. One of the things that we have is a great hope of a better country for everybody. And I say that one not as a cliche, but because when I talk to Carla, we change the world of disappearance. We were talking about, say, people, your daughter disappeared. And I say, no, we haven't found her yet. And when we talk about how we change the way and how we change the attitude towards our future, we really think that we have a chance to win. Not win where we can take power or we can put our points of view, but a chance where everybody have the opportunity to live better. In Michoacán, we have a place called Cherán, where the people take control over the community, and they even print their own money. They control the streets, they know who is in, who is out, and every person who is in that little town is elected by the older people. The same happened in Guerrero, it's happening in Tamaulipas. Tamaulipas is controlled by the narcos. So yes, we see a great deal of hope. It's going to be a long way, it's going to be a dark night, but even the darkest night have an end. And I think so the work that everybody is doing is very important. The Mexican consulate in San Francisco is going to spend $40,000 to organize rock concerts in San Francisco. I know that you guys don't have $400,000 to organize this event, but this one is the event that shows that we have hope.
Carla, Carla, si puedes dar un poco de nada más, brevemente, nada más unas palabras sobre tus esperanzas de cómo puede mejorar, obviamente, ¿qué miras tú en el futuro para la región de Ciudad Juárez, El Paso?
¿Qué futuro le miro yo a Juárez? Pues mientras que las autoridades no hagan su trabajo, no miro futuro. Supuestamente yo escuchaba una conversación del señor César Duarte que él decía que las desapariciones de niñas, de jovencitas, está disminuyendo, cuando es mentiras, está aumentando las desapariciones.
As long as the authorities don't do anything, there's no hope. There's a conversation from the governor, Cesar Duarte, saying that the disappearances are decreasing, but that's not true. They're increasing.
En este año van 12 jovencitas desaparecidas.
This year, there's been 12 young ladies disappeared.
O sea, estamos hablando de una por semana.
We're talking at least one per week.
Y ahorita yo escuchaba a alguien que comentó, si les interesa buscar petróleo, ¿por qué no buscan a las niñas?
And she was saying that she heard someone say, if they are interested in looking for oil, why are they not interested in looking for the young ladies?
Un compañero en Juárez, don Ricardo,
One of our friends, Don Ricardo, in Juárez,
papá de Mónica,
father of Mónica,
él nos decía, ¿cómo es posible que haya un teléfono
he used to tell us, how is it possible that there's a telephone,
para reportar un coche perdido?
that there's a phone to report a lost car,
Y no hay un teléfono
but there's not a phone number
para denunciar una desaparición de una jovencita.
to make a report on a young lady that's been disappeared.
Mis compañeras, ellas tienen muchas fuerzas
My friends are very strong
para hacer el trabajo que deberían de estar haciendo las autoridades.
to do the work that the authorities should be doing.
Así que pues ahorita me preguntan, ¿qué futuro miro para Juárez? Mientras que existe ese gobierno, pues no va a haber nada, no va a haber ningún cambio, al menos que no sea para beneficio de ellos.
So if you ask me what future do I see for Juarez, and we keep having this government that's not doing anything, then no, there's no hope unless there's something for them.
Yo ahorita sí quisiera pedirle a la gente que nos está escuchando
I would like to ask the audience that's listening to us
que nos apoyen, que nos ayuden.
to support us, to help us.
Nosotras necesitamos la ayuda de ustedes
We need your help,
y nos pueden ayudar
and you can help us.
mandando una carta, un correo electrónico, una llamada al consulado mexicano,
Sending a letter, an email, or calling the Mexican consulate,
diciéndoles que ustedes saben del caso de nosotras.
letting them know that you know of our case.
Sería una manera de presionarlos
That would be a way to pressure them.
y tenemos la posibilidad y la esperanza de que realmente empiecen a trabajar
And we have the possibility and the hope that they start doing something about it
con los expedientes de nuestras hijas.
with our daughter's files.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Shapley, Alfredo, the future, what do you see?
I'm sorry?
What do you see in the future of the region here?
I mean, I have good days and bad days. And I think overall, I mean, when I look at Mexico over the last 20 years that I've been a correspondent, probably the best moment for me of the day is in the morning when I'm reading the newspapers, when I'm listening to the news and I'm listening to the radio, and you see for the first time an attempt by Mexicans to understand the word accountability and that they're trying to hold the government accountable. And that's something new and that's something encouraging. As I said earlier, I find the best hope oftentimes through the women of not just Juarez, but women in Mexico. Women who have lost a lot, who lost their kids, and with the blood of their children, they get up and they're trying to build community. I think for a while I lost so much hope that I thought, I was through with Mexico. I wanted to just get away from Mexico. But it was a massacre in 2010, Villa Salvarcar in Ciudad Juarez, that really impacted me because a lot of these parents had the opportunity to seek political asylum. Many of them tried to. Many of them came to El Paso and actually talked to lawyers. And at the last minute, they all decided to stay in Juarez and try to do something about their community. And I follow these families back and forth for the last 4 years now. And through them, I think a lot of not just Juarenses, but a lot of people on both sides of the border see a better, brighter future in Mexico. It'll take time, and oftentimes I have to remind myself you have to continue to be patient. You have your good days and you have your bad days, but I think overall, it shows me really what the resilient spirit is all about in Mexico.
Edgar, you got to have hope. I mean, the arc of history is that you're going to a better place. You're going to the light. It worries me that one of the change agents, one person who has more leadership capacity, motivated to make change in Juarez, is on this stage seeking political asylum in the United States because in seeking to find out who killed her daughter, she is now being threatened by the law enforcement system of Chihuahua. Now think about that. I'm asking who killed my daughter and I want evidence, and because of that, I have to leave the country because now you're going to kill me and you're the police. That is a statement. Things change in the world, in your community, in your lives, because someone picks up the papel. They pick up the mission statement and go and do it. And the fact is, we will never have a closer relationship with any other country than Mexico. Texas will be majority Mexican American in 2021. The U.S. will be majority Mexican American, not Cuban, not Nicaraguense, not de Honduras, Mexican American in something like 2046. We have not only a moral obligation, but we have a leadership obligation to change what's happening. And whenever discussions happen around money and economics, now you got a chance to change it. And if we're going into a new era of a relationship, the next era of whatever NAFTA is going to be, we have to put this issue of impunity, the rule of law, and killings on the table. You can't kill 14,000 people in Juarez and say it's okay. And you can't ask for $1 billion to go drill the Gulf of Mexico and look the other way. They're tied together. We can't be in a union if you are in a corrupt society. And make no bones about it. It is a corrupt society. There might be a member of the consulate here, with all due respect, when whole regions are run by people who break the law and kill, then your country is corrupt, and you have to acknowledge it. You got to change it. And my belief is that will change, and my belief it'll change because of people like you in this room. When Reyes Ortega feels like he has to hold this get-together where students make these crosses and students come dressed up and students now own the issue, guess what? It's going to change. So the next round of applause ought to be for you guys because you're driving that change. It's happening. Good luck.
I'm looking at Dr. Reyes because it is 2 o'clock and I know that was the time to close. Would you like us to entertain any questions from, or at this point, the room is... Okay, maybe we can entertain 2 questions from the audience. We have 2 microphones up here. Maybe ask folks if they want to if you have any questions for our panelists. Yeah, would you like to come in to the front here? And if you could please state your name and whether you're a student here. Or
my name's Eddie. I'm a student here. I've been here for about 3 years. I started out as an environmental science major, and then I switched to comm studies because of stuff like this. And I would like to ask Carla a question. Even though you seek political asylum, in a way, I think you're a messenger. You're the voice of Mexico that came across the border to tell the truth of what really is going on. I think you were meant to be here. And I appreciate you coming here. Because I have 2 daughters, And I can't, there's no way I could imagine that happening to my daughters, because I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. My question to you is, I didn't catch your daughter's name.
Mi niña se llama Cintia Jocabet Castañeda. Ahorita ella tiene ya 18 años. Les comento, ella tenía 13 años cuando desapareció. Ahorita mi
She's
hija
18
tiene,
years old right now. She was 13 when she disappeared.
y ahorita mi hija ya tiene 18 años, tiene 5 años desaparecida.
But she'd be 18 today. It's been 5 years since she disappeared.
Pero ni aún así pierdo la esperanza. Yo tengo mucha esperanza y confío en mi Padre Dios que la voy a encontrar con vida.
But I have hope, and I know that I will find her alive.
Just to share some with you, my daughter's middle names are Faith and Hope. And I always tell them wherever I go, I always have faith and hope in my heart.
Question here?
Hello, my name is Rebecca Chavez Hall. My friend Susan Luciga told me about this conference here. I'm not a student here. I'm a mother of biracial children. And I really admire this lady for coming. She's very brave. And I want to know, I've had discussions with my friends. I have daughters. Some of my friends have boys. And we talk about how they're raised differently. Boys are raised differently. I feel like economics, yes, will be very important. But I think basically you got to get to how are men's mentality toward women. And I know it's not just Mexico, but I mean, that many deaths, it's not one or two people, it's the mentality of a country. Do they not have children and wives and sisters and mothers? When men stop thinking of women as chattel and that they can do whatever they want to women, that's when this will all end. She's talking about, and you've been talking about women who marched in Mexico and the women are going to change. Where are the men? Where's the father of your daughter? Where are the men marching? Where are the fathers? Where are the brothers? Is the mentality of Mexican men still back in the Stone Age? Are they 50, 60? I mean, I know the United States is still working toward that, but I mean, I look at my husband, my children are revered. There's my two daughters and then me. But where's the mentality of Mexican men how they feel about women? Are they still being thought of as, you said domestic violence was most of it, the murder, that they can slap them around, they can kill them, they can mutilate, they can rape without worrying about, hey, this is just how it is. This is the mentality of my country. Can anybody, perhaps you, can address that?
Well, let me try to be fair to a lot of the men. I mean, there are a lot of men protesting, but I think there's. I found something, I guess, maybe unique as a reporter when you talk to mothers. It's a very different relationship when your daughter or your son goes missing. So Esther Chavez would always tell me, se convierten en leonas. I mean, they lions who protect their kids. But I do see a lot of men also who've been very, very active in trying to change Mexico. And you're talking about, again, more than 120,000 people killed, children, lots of men. We just had a story recently, a couple of weeks ago, children in Michoacán who were being picked up by members of Caballeros Templarios, and they would take the organs, from these kids as a satanical worship, but also to sell the organs. So you have all, in a country that's really lawless, and you have all these lawless regions, you can practically do just about everything because you're going to get away with it. There isn't much punishment going on.
Senator, did you want to add to that?
I want to follow up on the issue of violence to women. And I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Africa, and there are regions in Africa where armies sweep through, and it's a weapon of war to rape the entire population of women to leave a message, a generational message. And I think there are two things tied together here. That is, when you have the total absence of a rule of law, it is almost inescapable that women are going to be hurt. And you see it in Africa, saw it in Juarez. If you looked at the numbers of women killed, it went up when Juarez was at its worst, 2008 to 2012. And I think there are indicia of that in society. When young boys in school, at the very earliest stage, you don't see the equality and equity of sexes that makes for the kind of societies that we want to live in. And it's at that moment you have to do something. The men have to do something, and the women have to do something. I mean, even in a classroom, if you see it happening.
If I could just add something real quick. I mean, one of the reasons why you have this uprising in Michoacan, and you talk to people, what led to this? And it's almost universal. It's fathers who were complaining or who had enough of their daughters being picked up by organized crime and raped, impregnated, husbands, boyfriends who saw the same injustice. And it was always, members of organized crime who would target these women because they're very vulnerable. And that was their way of dominating a community. But finally, a lot of these people just said enough is enough. And they rose up, and I think, in my experience, Michoacan is really the only place where people are really raising up. There's a lot of questions about the origins of some of the leaders, and are the leaders being infiltrated by other members of organized crime. But when you talk to regular people, it's very, very interesting when it says, we've just had enough. We've had enough of our daughters being raped, or our wives, or our girlfriends, that we just said, "Ay tuvo."
Thank you. To close and to leave, I don't want to leave this discussion without saying that there are also a lot of women and men out there who are really working really hard to change. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work with many folks in law enforcement from both countries who are really trying to make everything they can to solve these issues and work collaboratively on these issues. And a lot of men and women who have risked their lives out there, and I don't want to get lost, because there's a lot of collaboration between the two countries, and there are people who are fighting to transform their country and to make the region and their communities much better. Let's give a round of applause to all of our panelists here today. I want to again thank Dr. Reyes Ortega for his leadership, and also the New Legacy Committee for organizing this forum. Let's give them a round of applause.